Okay, so the 20s are usually the period for the most first experiences, which is why the 20s are the reminiscence bump. Okay, now we certainly want to tap into some other tricks for tips and tricks for college students, right? And the first one is get quality sleep, right? Um, get at least one good full night of sleep. Um, if you try to do an all-nighter, hey, your performance on the test is not going to be as good as if you spaced it out, which is actually number 3, over 3 days and actually got 2 nights of sleep before the exam, right? So you would have part of your studying, a third of it, on the first day, get a really good night's sleep. The second part on the second day, get a really good night's sleep. And then on the third day, the third part, and even if it's a night class, you've had 2 nights, good nights of sleep, okay? And it's not just the healthy brain and the alert brain, but there's also this really cool phenomenon. If you take sleep and dreaming, you'll learn more about it. But when you dream, you tend to rehearse information, that newly learned information that you learned that day. And very cool stuff to learn about in sleep and dreaming and how it is that we know that. All right. Okay, so the next one, number 2 here is active learning. Active learning involves putting your information into question and answer form. And that's how you are advised in our study plan, right? And then testing them for your, not for your online learning, you have a different plan for that, right? But for the class sessions. And remember, our classes are full of demos. They're full of practice TYLs, active demos, active practice, and also mini lectures that you take notes on these, right? Put them in question and answer format so you can actively test yourself with instant feedback later, right? And then the other thing in our plan, right, is spacing. So do it for each class. Study and learn those concept quizzes from your questions on your online learning, and then your flashcards, for instance, on the class sessions before the next class. Okay, so spacing. And then finally, over studying. This is a really cool one. And it's so effective, right? So there's this saying, C students study until they get it right. And A student studies until they can't possibly get it wrong. Okay. And imagine that also really, really gets rid of test anxiety. If you study till you can't possibly get it wrong, it's kind of fun to take a test instead of nerve-wracking. It's your chance to show off, right? To show your truly white teeth. All right. Wouldn't it be great if you could just take a pill or a supplement before tests to enhance your memory? Now, there are many fake claims on the market, and there are a couple of valid ones on the market, but the valid ones only are for older folks. They only work for older folks. So if you've seen Prevagen ads, you might notice that all the people they feature in the ad tend to be older, right? So unfortunately, they can help some people with age-related dementias, but they can't help you yet. And they certainly can't even help me yet, okay? Now, those that do, how they work, for people with age-related dementias, okay, this can sometimes help, and it does so. How? By increasing acetylcholine. So remember that acetylcholine neurotransmitter you learned about? In dementias, people lose brain cells. And so the acetylcholine helps to strengthen the connections between the remaining cells, okay? But not unless you're losing brain cells at a rate that you do with dementias. Okay, final thing I want to say about this is that memory pills, is that ginkgo biloba is often claimed to help memory, but the studies are really poorly designed. Up until 2008, okay, when the first really qualified, in other words, university lab that's not connected to who sells the products, right? They're unbiased, did a really well-designed study. The other thing at universities is they're well-trained in how to well-design a study. So they have enough participants is one example, right? So in 2008, they did this study, really valid, well-designed study with 3,000 participants. And they found that ginkgo biloba worked no better than a placebo. In other words, no better than nothing at all. Waste your money there. Now, there are two categories we're going to end with of memory disorders, okay? Organic or dissociative. And what I mean by organic is they have known physical causes, such as brain injuries or a medical condition. Brain surgeries can damage parts right around it, right? Misuse of certain drugs, etc. Okay? Dissociative do not have a clear organic basis. Okay, let's look at 3 examples. Amnesias. It's not uncommon for one to lose memory for what happened just before or during or just after a traumatic experience. Sometimes even all 3, right? And these are different forms of amnesia. So imagine how frustrating it is for police whose rape victim, they know they saw the face of their attacker, but they hold no memory for it. Now, fortunately, they usually regain those lost memories over time, and it usually doesn't take that long, okay? All right, so the second one is dementias and their age-related memory losses. The most common one starts with a A. What is the answer? Many of you probably guessed Alzheimer's, right? That is the correct answer. Alzheimer's is actually evidenced by neurofibrillary tangles in your neural network. So you could think of that as like twisted, right? All twisted neural networks or protein fibers all twisted up. It also involves senile plaques, okay? And these are actually protein deposits that accumulate, build up and accumulate between cells in neural networks. Now, Alzheimer's tends to send its victims back in time progressively. Their memories revert to earlier and earlier stages of their lives. So this is why many Alzheimer's patients tend to wander off. So in their head, they live in a different house, an earlier one in their life that they lived in. And just think if you suddenly woke up tomorrow somewhere else and you couldn't figure anything out, what are you going to do? You're going to try to find your home, right? Okay. So oftentimes they'll wander off, and this is why they need to be watched closely. This is also why many Alzheimer's patients misrecognize their grandkids as their kids, because they progress back to a point in time where they had kids Um, but not grandkids, right? And kids sometimes resemble the grandkids resemble the kids, which adds to this too. Now, if they live long enough to progress to a time before they had any kids, they will no longer recognize their kids or their grandkids, right? And think about this. If they progress to before they learn to ride a bike or play the piano, done, gone, right? If they progress to where they, at the age they learned to control their bladders, they will no longer be able to do that. All right. DID stands for dissociative identity disorder. Dissociative identity disorder. Okay, but it is more commonly known as multiple personality disorders. It's called the dissociative disorder because different personalities only have access to certain memories and they are disassociated from others. We're going to learn a lot more about that when we study psychological disorders in this class. So this concludes our lecture.